It is Sunday, and that means it's time for Politics Unplugged, your look inside the critical political issues impacting our community and our state. Welcome. I'm Tony Kovaleski in for Ann Trujillo this weekend, and so here's the question we're going to start off with. Have you decided on who you will vote for to replace John Hickenlooper as the next governor of our great state? By this time next month, voters will have their ballots and the power to make that decision. It's a choice between Republican Walker Stapleton and Democrat Jared Polis, a race that started a bit on the quiet side, but recently has seen its fair share of more aggressive ads, including some name-calling and finger-pointing. We're going to lead off today by unplugging this race with Marianne Goodland of ColoradoPolitics.com and Blair Miller of TheDenverChannel.com. Both of you, welcome. Lot to talk about here. First off, let's hear from both of you on who decides this race, because generally in Colorado, it's that unaffiliated voter. So if that's the case, who is working harder to get that vote? Marianne, we'll start with you.
The unaffiliated voters so far this campaign season have seemed to lean left. So that's good news for Jared Polis. And the fact that he is putting in, at this point, about $21 million of his own money. He certainly leads in the fundraising on all accounts.
Blair, your insight here, because we've seen historically the wave. If a Democrat is in office, there's that red wave in the midterm. If a Republican's in office, the blue wave. So here we're likely to see a blue wave in November. What kind of impact do you think that will ultimately have on deciding our next governor?
Well, I think that some of the congressional races are obviously going to bring out some more voters, especially from the 6th district, because of Jason Crow and Mike Kaufman. But, you know, I mean, we saw in the primaries that the unaffiliated voters already sort of leaned left as far as which ballot they ended up voting on. And so I think that, you know, if I'm Republicans, I'm working a little bit harder than Democrats maybe to try and get that vote right now, because I think Democrats think that they have a better chance of pulling in that vote naturally this year.
So, Marianne, you were at the Club 20 conference in Grand Junction a couple weeks back, and it's a big event known for political debates, but in this case, only one candidate showed up. Tell us what you saw and why.
Well, there were 17 debates that day.
A lot of debates.
A lot of debates. You had the candidates for the State House, the State Senate. You had the Congressional District 3 candidates. You also had the Republican candidate for CD2. And there's a very small portion of the Western Slope that has Congressional District 2. And then you had the sort of the top of the line ticket, the governor, attorney general, secretary of state, and treasurer. Jared Polis did not participate. He had offered to send a surrogate in his place, and Club 20 declined that.
That was controversial.
It was controversial. He is the first gubernatorial candidate since Club 20 started doing these debates to not show up for this event. It's really considered to be the unofficial kickoff of the campaign season.
What did that message say? What did you take from that?
From some folks, I heard that he was not inclined to talk about some of the issues that were going to be brought up in the debate. The Club 20 event, its major sponsor was Chevron. So that means that there are going to be a lot of questions about oil and gas, and that is a big part of what they were asked, all the candidates were asked about.
Blair, let's talk about the ad campaign. You're in our newsroom as part of the Denver channel. We've been talking about the ads. What's your read on what's happened so far in this race regarding the ads?
Well, I think most of the spending, at least, well, you can't necessarily say for Walker Stapleton, but mostly against Jared Polis, has come from these outside committees, which are dumping a lot of money in. The RGA, Republican Governors Association, is making a really hard push to paint Polis in a certain light. Polis has come out and tried to release some positive ads, but finally I think his campaign had the last straw and released a negative ad last week. And so I think, you know, the battle for the airwaves is something that, you know, we saw it happen in New York with Cuomo, of how effective his ads were. And so I think it's something they're going to keep pushing every single week up until Election Day. How effective they are, I'm not exactly sure at this point.
And Marianne, that's the question I posed to you. We've seen historically that negative can win. Do you think negative ads will win this campaign? Both sides clearly have the gloves off right now. Well, what's your viewpoint on the ads, and going forward, do you expect more, and will they make a difference?
I do expect more. Just Friday morning, a group called the Colorado Campaign for Jobs and Opportunity, which is an independent expenditure committee that is backing Walker Stapleton and based in that big Denver suburb of Beverly, Massachusetts, dropped $450,000 for a TV media blitz. And you know, the messaging is not controlled by the candidates anymore, and that's one of the sad facts of how campaign spending goes. It's controlled by the groups that are spending the money. This particular group is viewed as anti-labor, so that's kind of where we're headed. And is it going to be negative? I don't think we'll ever see that we have ever seen a campaign that's going to be as negative as what we're going to see in the next 60 days.
Well, I'm going to give you guys both 15 seconds to close, but Colorado has not elected a Republican governor since Bill Owens back in the late 90s. What's your viewpoint as we get into these? No poll has come out. Is this a horse race right now? Which way do you handicap it as we sit here a month away, a month plus?
We're certainly not hearing either of the campaigns, either the Polis or Stapleton campaign, release any internal polling numbers, which tells me that they're all running a little bit nervous. The only indication that I've heard so far, and it was recently, is that it's tracking at about 50-50. This is going to be a horse race right down to the last day.
I think that part of that probably has to do with a lot of voters who are still undecided for whom they're going to vote, because, you know, I think that maybe that because Polis is on the left and Stapleton's on the right, that there's a lot of middle ground here that the voters aren't necessarily latching onto one candidate or the other. But like she said, it's going to be a real horse race for the next couple months.
And as we know, this discussion is far from over. We'll be talking more on Politics Unplugged. Well, all right, we have just started unplugging politics in our great state. After the break, we dig into the race for our state's next Attorney General. Stay with us. We'll be back.